What is up, Gig Nation? Welcome back to the channel, home of gigsharks.com, the best place to find a gig economy job. Today it is a beautiful sunny day here in Seattle. I hope you're having some good weather wherever you are at. We're going to be looking at some slightly serious topics, but hopefully there will be some light at the end of the tunnel here because there is some pending good news coming up. What we're looking at is the unemployment relief, what's been passed and what we're still waiting on, what President Trump has tried to sign into effect with an executive order, whether or not us gig economy workers should rely on that, and what we should do going forward, what decisions we need to make. So if you've been following the news, which you probably have because a lot of us are depending on this unemployment relief and these stimulus checks, you've probably seen that Congress has really just been arguing a ton about how to proceed, how much stimulus to give out, how much to help people. And both sides really cannot just find a solution. It seems like it's harder than ever for them to compromise, but I am optimistic. I think that we will see something out of Congress here coming up in the next week or so. What we had seen is that Republicans wanted to cut down that unemployment benefit from the federal government from 600 down to 200. Democrats thought that this amount was too low, but they also had all sorts of stipulations, for states, for different spending that kind of wasn't related to the pandemic at all. So these sides are kind of, both of them are disagreeing with what the other one has to say. And instead of finding a compromise, they've really just continued to stall while there are people in need. And so President Trump signed this executive order into action. A lot of people are saying he's just doing this to get votes in November. And a lot of people are also saying that it may not actually go into effect, that there's some stipulations within this executive order that might prevent local states from getting on board with it. And that's because the act, while it only reduces that unemployment from $600 to $400 a week, the federal government's actually only going to be contributing $300 of that. So basically they are asking the states to pitch in the other 100. A lot of governors are saying this just simply is not possible to pitch in $100 a week. President Trump's asked those states to pay that $100 a week out of the coronavirus relief fund. And governors are saying that money from that coronavirus relief fund that they received has already been earmarked. They have other places that they need to put it to help keep people safe, and that they can't also afford to start paying part of the unemployment. So where exactly does this leave people who are working in the gig economy? What should you do moving forward? What's your next move? If you are on unemployment, pandemic unemployment, should you be going back to work? Is this $400 a week enough? A lot of people are saying that it might be, that they might be able to get by with that $400 a week, and it might be best to not go back to work. But a lot of people have, that bias to action. They want to be out there working, even if there is a little bit more risk. That's up for the individual to decide. Now, I recently put out a poll on the YouTube channel, Gig Nation, to try and figure out if people are earning more or less since the beginning of the pandemic based upon conversations we've had in the Facebook group. And a lot of what I've been seeing in the comments, a lot of people think that they're earning a lot less now that the pandemic has settled in a little bit. People have kind of spent that stimulus money, and there's just not as much money out there going towards food delivery, rideshare, stuff like that. People are seeing a decrease in earnings, but that's not the only point of view. I've heard a lot of people saying that if you're in the right place at the right time, earnings can actually be quite good right now. So it definitely makes sense more than ever to have kind of a multifaceted approach. If you really do want to go back to work, you should have multiple apps that you're signing up for. All of the big ones are very easy to sign up for. So if you want to throw DoorDash in there, you can usually get going within a week or so. They approve all of their new applicants pretty fast, assuming that they're actually hiring new drivers in your area. You can also check out Postmates. Instacart, I've heard a lot of mixed stuff on Instacart. I often look on the app in Seattle, and the batches aren't all that bad, but some of them are kind of pulling you out further away. So you have to factor in more driving time and longer batch times, even if those batch prices seem like they're pretty good. In previous videos, I have recommended that gig economy workers, if you're considering taking pandemic unemployment assistance or continued assistance, to do something like taking an online course. Now, a lot of people have thought this is a pretty cool idea, but I'm also getting some pushback on it. Personally, I think that you should definitely do it. Now, the caveat here is that you're not supposed to be receiving any sort of unemployment assistance if you are a student. But online courses are a little bit different. I mean, those online platforms aren't going to be giving away your personal information, so you're probably safe if you're just taking a couple of classes and you're bettering yourself, making yourself potentially more attractive to employers in the future. You can command a higher wage, and you can definitely give back to the economy, to society in different ways when you're learning new skills. But maybe you don't want to start classes right now, you don't want to go through all of that. Well, here's another approach, something that I'm actually looking at. I'm quite busy right now, kind of bringing on new partners with gigsharks.com and managing some developers to put out an app. What we are trying to do is actually put out an app that shows you in real time how much other gig economy workers are making in your city, so that in times like this, when you don't know if you should go back to work or not, you can actually find out what the most attractive options are for working in the gig economy. Let's say in Denver, in Miami, in Atlanta, in Los Angeles, in Seattle, any of these cities. We're going to be in as many cities as possible. We're going to show you that info. But I'm setting aside time to actually learn some other skills on the side, because I always like kind of expanding my options. And one of those, a unique option for you if you've ever had any interest in web design, online marketing, coding. There's a lot of new platforms coming out that do no code. So essentially, you can start building prototypes and designing apps that work fully functionally, front end and back end, without actually knowing how to code. One of these is bubble.io, and I'm starting to look through their tutorials because it's a unique skill set that you can market yourself to companies that want an app built. You can do it, in a fashion that's relatively cheap. You could charge them a few $100 for a prototype. It could take you maybe only a few hours to put out there, and it would save them thousands of dollars. So it's kind of just one of these unique areas that's still growing. Learn a skill like this, market it on Upwork, and start making some side money. That way you can diversify from just having, your basic delivery, rideshare, shopping gigs. Let me know what your thoughts are. Are you currently still working in the gig economy? Are you making more, or are you making less than you were previously before this pandemic started? If you're not going back to work, are you doing anything else to kind of, better your future in your spare time and your free time? What are you focusing on? What are you working on, trying to build? I'd love to hear about your journey and your story. And along those same lines of earning money, making more money, is also saving money. At GigSharks, we recently partnered with Jerry.ai, and they allow you to compare a ton of different insurance providers, get quotes in just 45 seconds. The average user saves $872 a year for this. So just by plugging some numbers in, taking about 45 seconds. There's no long forms, no spam, no annoying emails. It's just finding cheaper insurance, and it's a great way to save yourself some money every year. Definitely something you should be looking at as you continue to look at your budget and find a way to make it through this crisis going forward.